What is up, guys? It's your boy Aniki. As you can guess if you've been following my channel, I am currently cat sitting little Apollo. He's down here. I don't know if he's coming up during the video, but hey, that's what it is. This is another one of Aniki's analysis videos where I'm going to break down rivalries further, but today I'm going to highlight the one between Toga and Uraraka. Now, the thing about this one is that it's being written very in a typical shonen fashion, and yet it is once again not even a rivalry that people necessarily think of, or nobody would walk up to you and say, "Hey, did you ever think about how and Sakura's like girly rivalry over the same boy is reminiscent of, to a certain degree, Uraraka, and how Toga both like Izuku and both are blatantly being slated for each other's like big opponents." Now, the thing about that is that when I say that, like a lot of people are like, well, yeah, okay, yeah, I figured that, but no, it's like it's actually being written and structured in a way that it is very reminiscent of these classic rivalries, except neither character is focused or written in such a way that they necessarily make that a prominent point for why they would take each other on or take each other out. For Toga, her motivation, while she is in love with Izuku and is technically a love rival with Uraraka, she is not at all focused on fighting Uraraka for those reasons. It is because she also loves Uraraka and therefore would like to become her. And that's not possible if Uraraka and her do not come to a head and clash. Now, the thing that I think is important about this, though, is that even though both of these characters could be easily written into a position in which Toga and Uraraka would have a big rivalry over the sheer fact that they both like the same boy, Horikoshi has decided to instead take a different route in which we can have the thing that drives Uraraka to take on Toga, the thing to motivate her, is the reclamation of her identity and the fact that Toga has now used her face to slaughter people. Not innocent people, but she has used Uraraka's face. So now, instead of this being the classic, oh, the girls want to fight because they're both in love with the boy, both the girls are going to fight, but they both just happen to be in love with the boy. It is not about that at all. It has managed to make them love rivals in a way that completely disregards the fact that they're in love with the same person, and instead it focuses on their own interactions between each other from the time Toga attacked her in the forest and tried to cut her, to Toga stealing her identity in this latest arc, to Toga infiltrating their school. And I'm sure on some level they've had to have discussed this, because I believe that there's no way that people are like, oh yeah, the League of Villains infiltrated the schools, we won't warn the students about this. Like, I don't see that being an effective idea. The best, like at worst, they make the mole act early. At best, they just flush them out and they just quit trying to be a snitch and they find an excuse to leave. So I just think it's imperative that we discuss all the points in the series in which you can see them both growing and like getting their own ideals and having their own focuses. Now, the thing that I think is interesting is that Uraraka showed inspiration for why she would want to be in the joint training arc, a hero for other heroes, want to save heroes. With the death of Night Eye, with the Deku being always like in danger or almost dying, she thought about the fact that everybody goes this hard to save people, and yet nobody's really trying to save the heroes. And so, as her mind shifts towards that, she has a reason to like gravitate towards Izuku, who is like the main character, the lead of the protagonist side. So there's a reason for her to be attracted to the main good guy of the series, and that she's got an established friendship with him. He saved her during the entrance exam. They saved each other. They consistently get to work together. They prepare together often. They do have a friendship established. But the thing is that that is not the focus of her dynamic with him. Instead, what we get in that arc is a declaration of trying to be able to save people, including Deku, which is even something that she showcases when she goes to try to stop him as Black Whip is on a rampage. All right, you gotta come over here, little buddy. Uh, and so when you have the fact that we get the revelation, her focus, her ambition to save Deku in the My Villain Academia arc, as Toga asks, Shigaraki, is it okay? Wait, you don't want to destroy the things that I love, and then Shigaraki says, what my allies love is fine. And then like later on, she kills Chitose. She reaffirms her loyalty to want like essentially being the blade of Shigaraki when she's like, but we have to kill the things we don't like, right, Shigaraki? And so you have this connection between the two of them where they're both progressing, they're both getting their legitimate reasons to be attached to the main character through the narrative that aren't just, well, cliche girl that happens to be really invested in the main character. And it's not like a one way street where he's always saving her. She's already saved him from falling to his death. She saved him during the joint training arc. In fact, I would say that if I'm being honest, I think that Uraraka has been either equal with Izuku or saved him more the entire series, which in of itself is like an inversion of how that is handled. And in the same way, Toga has in the past done things and has actually, if you think about it, outside of like being the leader, she's probably done more for the league than Shigaraki has in his current state. That being said, with the amount of people Shigaraki's dusted this arc, taking down like Redestro, everything all like that, it's kind of balanced out by now. But the point is that each of them has done things for these main leads of their factions, with the main bad guy being Shigaraki. What's going on in this current My Villain Academia, and so you have a consistency of these two getting all their reasons to be in the positions where there's always like this cliche group of people in shonen where it's like all these characters come together and it's a ragtag group of people, or maybe they're like a tight knit group, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like you get these factions of people, and then you get like the Phantom Trope and all these other things. Well, no, the Phantom Trope is actually really done well, but like you get the evil group, and then like there's always, or like they get in One Piece, like with Baroque works out, there was a perfect number for each guy, and of course like the right number of female combatants to match Nami, like that kind of setup. Except in this case, each character has a very good, we're gonna have very clear reason to be affiliated with their leader when it comes to a head. So whereas you have something like if Toga and Izuku, or like if Toga and Deku ran into each other and then Uraraka was on the scene, it would make sense for her to be there due to the established connections. In the same way that like if Shigaraki and Deku were fighting, it would make sense for both of them to be there, not only because of the fact that like they're in the same group, but because they have a hard established mutually beneficial actual relationship dynamic to work with that's been established throughout the series. And the way they play off of each other is that when they make progress, whereas we see Uraraka getting more adept with her hand-to-hand combat, Toga has like the inverse character development or power development where she's getting better and better at utilizing her quirk properly. And so, because with Uraraka, yes, she's been focusing on her quirk, yes, she can make herself float. That's one of the reasons and actually motives that inspired Toga to get better, not only with her quirk as like transformation, but it also led to her learning and obsessing and figuring out how to utilize Ochako's quirk by like further tapping into the DNA of hers that she would ingest in order to take enemies out, which was an important buff for Toga. The thing that I'm looking forward to though is that at the end of the day, if they can both make each other float, what it becomes is a battle of two people potentially flying through the air. It's basically going to turn into a wire fu matchup where you have the potential of Uraraka versus Toga being this massive aerial combat battle between two people with like good martial arts training, because at the end of the day Toga is like an assassin. She's got like the stealth hit and run fighting style, and then you've got Ochako who's learning how to like disarm and like fight people like straight up with the hands. So we've got more than likely and like across cities jumping through the air fight where they both make each other float, controlling each other's gravity. So then even if they try to undo their gravitational effects, we don't know how that's going to affect them. We've got a lot of potential just wonkiness that can come with that fight, to like Uraraka throwing cars at her, or Toga managing to like stealth out and like, but it actually being a mirror match is making it essentially like a fight of those girls versus themselves, even though Toga is technically not Uraraka. She wants to be her, and in her mind it would be her fighting her. It's a very interesting psychological trip. But yeah, and if you look back to the overhaul arc in which Uraraka goes out of her way to try to like get people to save Deku, save everyone, get Night Eye up there. Uh, Toga focuses on getting Tomura alleviated, getting Tomura, the information necessary so that he can get more out of the situation, even though they couldn't capture the child. And I think it's important to note that like both girls weren't necessarily about the child, but they both led to successfully saving or helping someone for a brief moment, or setting something up for their allies in the future. Uh, So if you look at back to like provisional license, that's when this really starts taking off though, and then that's when she tries to turn into her, she tries to get close to Izuku, and she further establishes like a jealousy where she's like, oh yeah, you're really close and trusted, but again, like that was all the way back in like chapter 100, and we haven't focused on the fact that Ochako, she's jealous of Ochako necessarily, but moreover that she loves and admires Ochako for being who she is, and so I think that's an interesting way for the rivalry to be structured because it is them both being love rivals, but it is also the two of them being actual combative rivals in their alignments and their goals for the future, and that's how you establish a love rivalry in my opinion. I think that a lot of shows lean way too hard into just trying to make it a gag, or they try to make it a love rivalry between like a crazy woman and like for example in the comic I kill, it was like, okay, you have, oh man, I can't even remember the MC's name right now, but you have Esdeath, who's like this nutso girl, and then you have Mine, who's like the one that Tatsumi, I think it's Tatsumi, I don't know, tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, who ends up in love with uh, Mine, and so you have like these compared like, but they don't have like a reason to be rivals with each other outside of maybe like a bit of faction and a little bit of uh, love, and like, but it's mostly focused around like love and like that kind of competition. But then you have the option of these characters who, even if she wasn't in love with Izuku, if Ochako's blood had been stolen by Toga, she'd still have a good enough motive to want to fight her, to want to take her down, especially if she was being used in this way. And I think that's something that's important, is that when we get to these fights later on, if we get to Uraraka versus Toga, it's not going to be a conversation about how, oh, I love Izuku necessarily. It's going to be a conversation about, you've been using my face, you murdered like dozens of people, you got to be stopped, you're insane. And like that's where I want to see like people having their own personal reasons for wanting to fight these villains, besides just, I'm a hero, it's what I do. Yes, that's cool, yes, that's why they're part of why they're there, but I think it's nice that they have their own actual motives and reasons. And the Toga versus Uraraka rivalry is actually one of the better ones because it's not played off as a very toxic friendship. Instead, they're just two people who are going to have to come to a head due to the ways they've interacted in life and how they've treated each other. That's all I got to say on this one. Aniki out.